This is a steal for the Bengals as this running back was just released and is back on the open market, primed to return to the Bengals after a short stint with the team just a few years ago. You probably recognize him from the intro video, but we're going to be diving into who this is and what this means for the team as we dive in today. Let's get straight into it as Khalil Herbert was released by the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to dive into what this means for the Bengals, as we know that he does have a little bit of a history with the team. But before we do that, I did want to shout out our subscribers. If you're part of that 70% who watch and are not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. But a big shout out to our subscribers. You guys have really been helping us out a ton lately, and now we are getting so much closer to the regular season, so it's very, very exciting, and we've got more Bengals content on the way, so be sure to subscribe if you're not already. As we dive into news like today, where we talk about Khalil Herbert. Now, we know that Khalil Herbert had a little stint with the Bengals. We're going to dive into his stats with him a little bit later, but the current way that it stands in the Bengals running back depth chart is a good place to start here today. So the way it stands right now, at running back 1, you have Chase Brown. At running back 2, you have Samaje Perine. After that, there is quite a fall off with Taj Brooks, Gary Brightwell, Kendall Milton, Jamal Haynes, Kentrell Bullock. Kendall Milton being the main one who took a lot of those reps in the first preseason game. So that's a big thing to consider there. Chase Brown and Samaje Perine likely not going anywhere as running back 1 and 2 unless some unforeseen injury is to happen or something along those lines, God forbid. But Khalil Herbert is a viable option, I think, for that running back 3 position when there's really not a solidified guy who makes a name for himself as a running back 3. So we look at his stats, and across his career, he's shown some flashes of being a really good back. Notably, his years in Chicago, he ran the ball very well. Has never cracked a 1,000-yard season, but in that second season with them, rushing for over 700 yards, 4 touchdowns, even a receiving touchdown in there. He has some receiving history. Same thing with Cincinnati, where he actually got traded. And he ended up having a decent year that year as well, as you could see there at 26 years old. Played in 8 games, had 114 yards, nothing crazy, but definitely did have a lot younger legs back then. I mean, he's not old by any means, but altogether, this is a guy who can come in and make an impact. Now, looking at those stats, you look at last year again, we'll pull him back up, and you're like, why would you want to bring in a guy who played in 7 games, only had 16 attempts and 52 yards? Well, the main reason is not necessarily for his rushing, because I think we have that covered with Chase Brown and Samaje Perine. The main thing that is going to be my selling point on them going out and getting Herbert, bringing him back to Cincinnati, is this right here. And this is from Russell Heltman. He said he's coming off a career best season as a pass blocker with a 77 overall PFF grade on an albeit small sample, 12 passing sets. But Perine was a horrendous pass blocker last season, showing his age a bit with a 39.1 grade on 48 blocks. And that is absolutely abysmal. Let's hope that he's nowhere near that this season. But, he's not exactly a pass blocker. Samaje Perine is not. And bringing in for some of those pass sets, I think that he would be worth the change that they're going to spend on him. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he's coming off a $1 million contract and some change. I think that the Bengals can afford that. And especially for a guy who is proven a little bit more than some of these guys later on in the roster. I mean, you have guys that really haven't gotten much of a chance, guys who are more, practice squad training camp guys like, Kentrell Bullock and Jamal Haynes, Gary Brightwell, Taj Brooks. Taj Brooks has gotten some touches, same with Gary Brightwell, but altogether, I mean, Kendall Milton and the rest of the list, pretty much camp bodies. And, do you really need 3 star running backs? No. But is Khalil Herbert still a star running back? No. So you're not paying that much for him. I genuinely like this move. I really do. I mean, the way that it's looked so far in the preseason, when talking about the winners and losers in that game, here's what Anthony Cosenza has to say about it. The Bengals' second halfback had a rough night with a fumble and just 2.8 yards per carry. It was a rough night for both teams handling the football because of the earlier immense rain, but he will need to show more in the next couple of games. And this is talking about Kendall Milton, of course, they're in the second half. Now, I mean, Taj Brooks did have, 4 touches for 11 yards. And then, Gary Brightwell had 4 touches as well for 10, I believe. But Milton ran 9 carries for 21 yards, longest rush being a 7-yard rush. And I know that it's only week one of the preseason. A lot of that rust is being shaken off, and I'm not trying to overreact too much to it. But altogether, Kendall Milton did not make a great impact. And, losing the ball there, I know the conditions, but when you're trying to make a spot on the team, this leaves room for guys like Khalil Herbert to come in and make an impact immediately, especially when you're considering the fact that he's already been on the team. I mean, he had a stint, he knows the plays, he knows at least somewhat of the system. I know it's changed since the few years ago that he stayed with the Bengals, but he's at least going to be a little bit easier to learn the playbook than some of these other free agents, and I really think it makes sense. Now, as a side piece of news, I wanted to cover it before we wrap up today's video. Just a slight thing that really hasn't been talked about a whole lot. I did see some memes about it online, but we're not going to get into that. But Ceyair Wright, undrafted free agent rookie here for the Bengals, is leaving the Bengals to pursue other opportunities. Now, if you remember when they picked him up, we talked about the fact that he had played in Space Jam as LeBron's son. So, bit of an acting history there, but still a pretty good cornerback there in the NCAA. But Zach Taylor says it was a hard decision for him, but 2 of his passions were colliding, and he did choose the acting career over football. And, I don't think that in a situation like this leaves anybody wanting him to necessarily come back, in this situation. Nothing against the guy. I wish him the best. But I do think that this is probably not a good look to other coaches, and he probably did just sign away the rest of his future in the NFL. Just because it would be different if he was a complete star player, but he's a guy who was an undrafted free agent, and the Bengals took a chance on him, and he's decided he wants to go in another direction. Now, to be fair to the guy, I don't think he was going to get much playing time as is, but this is a decision that he wanted to go with, so I wanted to bring it to you guys in case you hadn't seen it, because not really a guy that's talked about a whole lot. I was a little bit excited about him, a little bummed to see him going, but for the best, I'm sure. Now, I just want to know what you guys think. Do you think the Bengals should sign Khalil Herbert? I want you to comment down below why for yes and for no. What do you think? I think it makes a good case, personally. I'm going to say why for yes, because I think that his pass blocking makes a good case for him being a good signing. I mean, the reality of this season is the number one priority for that offense is to protect Joe Burrow, in my opinion. And a signing like this does wonders for protecting Joe Burrow, which I think is the most important thing. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Glad to be back after my short little hiatus. And we've got more to cover this week as we ramp up for preseason week 2. So be sure to stick around. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.